Good morning, everyone. It's coming up to about 8 minutes past 9 here in the morning in Les Sables d'Olonne. Sorry about our position outage. That was a classic case where I signed off about midnight last night and then got up early this morning, but didn't immediately get onto the tracker because I had a few other things to do. Got up for the 8 o'clock session an hour ago and found out the last reports actually came through at 9 o'clock. 2000 UTC last night, excuse me, and immediately went into reaction mode. Unfortunately, Yellow Brick were on the ball as soon as I alerted them to the fact they had it all back up and running within minutes, literally. So we're in at work now, and I thought I'd give you a live update on what's happening. Everything's pretty reasonable. Uku's the exciting part for now. But we'll start off over here with Tapio down at the rear of the fleet, and let's just see what he's up to here. He's got a nice sailing breeze all from behind him, making 3.3 knots, and seems quite happy there for now. There's no real exciting messages from anyone. Tapio's just told us that he's got one lonely petrel at the moment. That's the only bird around, so not a lot of breeze. They tend to come in when there's a front or something come through, so now the weather's pretty stable. They've obviously flown on. Anyway, looking at his weather moving forward, we'll come forward a day here. Still light winds from the south, so a lot of instability around here, or not a lot of breeze, so he's not going to be making big miles. We come through to another day. He's got these headwinds again, so I'll just put the zone up in there, so he's got a bit of room to move around, but he's not going to be too happy with that. And it's probably by the look of that system up the top there. Let's just decrease the size of this. You can see why he's got headwinds. He really needed to get on the move. I thought he'd be further across on this, so he may be impacted here by these stronger winds up the top. We'll just go through in 3-hourly increments there. He's got a bit of breeze. Not sure where he's going to go. He doesn't want to go into the inside. If he decides to come down here on port tack with this, we will probably open up the zone because we don't want him. There's another 3 hours. He's going to get some very strong northerly winds. Yeah, we'll put him on port tack and let him go through. I'll send him a message shortly and just tell him if he needs to dip into the zone for a bit, so be it, because he will, if we just follow that through again, just so you can see if you're on a mobile device, coming back, that's on the 5th. Okay, well, he could be a fair way in front, but he's going to go slow. Let's just slide this back and see what's going to happen here. So here we are now on the 2nd. He's going to have 3 knots, so it's only about 70 miles by the 2nd, so we've got 70 miles. Okay, next day, the 3rd. Yeah, he's only going to have another 70 miles, so he's only going to be about 150 miles in front before these headwinds go. So let's just see where that is. That's there. It's probably going to be about there. So he's just going to be over the other side here in a couple of days. Then he's got headwinds, so he won't be going anywhere really fast. And then they're going to increase pretty quickly. So he'll come forward a little bit by the 5th. Yeah, he's still got it on there. So yeah, he's going to come down very close to that. So we'll just see how we go. But it all disappears reasonably fast. If we come back here a bit again, just so you can see. Okay, through the 7th, yeah, then he's back on track again. So that possibly may be what happens to Tapio. We'll just see how it goes. But for now, he's happy for the next couple of days, and you might see him getting very close to the boundary or needing to dip into it a bit to stay away from those strong winds. So Istvan got around Cape Horn yesterday. He's very happy about that. Still no message from him, so we haven't seen his total excitement, but we all know he's pretty hyped about that whole deal. He's now making 4.9 knots in very relatively low seas. In fact, he'll be pretty much, because he's so much in the lee right now, yeah, it's all blue, so he'd be down to 2 metres. He'll be enjoying that. He wouldn't have seen that for probably a month or so, and making good speed towards the Stretcho de la Mer by the look of it. This is this little gap between the two, has very strong running tidal currents, either going one way or the other way, depending on the tide, and you can get some horrific short, steep seas in here, depending on the wind direction. But when it's coming across the tidal flow there, it's pretty well perfect. And anyway, it looks like he's going to have some quiet winds there for tomorrow, so we'll see what happens. Going through to the 4th, he'll be through that by then. He'll be coming up here, so all good breezes. No surprises there in the future. And he's got some big tailwinds, so he'll be happy with that. That'll give him a big kick up towards the Falklands. By the look of this, I would say there's no question he'll probably be going on the inside of the Falklands, not worrying about going around the back. And then, okay, so this is the 6th, so that's 4 days away. 1, 2, 3, 4. He may be through the other side by then and coming out here on Port Tack. So let's look at what the big picture's bringing. That's the 6th. We go through to the 7th. Wow, some big breezes came across there very quickly. So let's just see what's happening here. Well, whatever happens, he'll be up here by then getting a good solid tailwind. So he'll be on his way. So I think that's part of the course there. So I think Tapio's looking okay. Now, I haven't had a look at Uku's situation this morning to see what's happening with this blow that's coming through. He's making, I've never seen Uku go so fast. Yesterday he was doing over 7 knots. He was never under 6.9 knots. He knows he's got to get out of here as quick as he can, and he's absolutely flying. So, so he's really racing north, not racing the GGR. And he's currently making 5.1 knots. Wind on the beam, going as best he can. So let's just see how this develops. This is where he gets into the start of these headwinds now. So this is by the end of today. So in about the next 18 hours, he'll have to decide where he goes. I know he's not going to go back on starboard tack. He'll go on port and he'll have to peel off. He'll be going very much northeast, and then he'll start to go east of northeast, and then eventually, let's just see, I'll click this through in 3-hourly increments now. As this wind increases, you'll see it increase. He's going to be pushed more out to the east, and we'll have to hope that this forecast doesn't develop the way we thought. So by then he'll be over here. Okay, so by the look of this, this big system is starting to open up a bit, but it's still suggesting big winds. And let's get I'll just blow this up one more size here and look at where he's likely to be. Let's just get a distance from him there now, over to about here somewhere, 150 miles. He could be beyond that. Let's hope that he's going to be out here somewhere. He might be out here, but I think he's going to be impacted with some of this. But by the look of it, it's not as intensely formed the way it was suggesting previously at this side, but certainly some serious big winds there. And if let's say we assume Uku's going to be around about here somewhere, I'll click this through again in 3-hourly increments because it's moving through pretty fast. There's 3 hours, then the wind swings, but fortunately it's not as hard when it swings. But then there's a backup system, and it'll depend on one of the things that, wow, look at that, it's forming up big behind him. So that's good. The more north he can get now, the less, this is where it's really intense. This breeze here is going through 80 knots. That's really intense because you go through the 40s, 50s, you've got 60s in here, gusting higher, 70s, and when it changes again into this is extreme wind here, seriously extreme wind. So that's good news in one way because Uku will be up here and should miss that. But this is a very powerful system here, and by the look of it, it's forming up, it's intensifying after it goes past Uku's main position. So so that's good, but certainly a very dangerous storm if you're down here. Fortunately, he won't be there. He'll be gone by then. And we'll keep our fingers crossed for Uku. So just to summarise that, we'll come back here to the real-time weather. He's able to keep going in this direction for about the next 18 hours, go through until the 3rd. Then there'll be some light headwinds coming through, which will slowly increase, going to push him a little bit out to the east. He needs to try and hold north as much as possible. And then I would say by the time it's all over, by the end of the day on the 3rd. So there's going to be the next 36 hours is going to be very interesting for Uku, and we'll keep our best wishes for him and watch it as we go. We might do some updates as that gets closer as well. So now we'll move on from there. Sorry about that. We'll come up here to Mark and Jean-Luc. certainly Mark's been doing well. We lost him on the tracker there. That was the start of a little issue that they couldn't solve. But in the end, it's all now back and running. So making 6.5 knots. He said he's been...
Mark's still wrong.
Oh, it is too. You're right. I saw 400. Jane just pointed out that Mark's position is still wrong. So we're not sure on that one. Okay, so we're still working on that. So we do know that he's really strong. He's been making very good ground, but that'll really upset the scenario with positions here for Jean-Luc. It'll look as if Jean-Luc's actually piling away, but to give you an idea, I'll do an estimate here. I know. Okay, so we've got, this could get a bit boring if you're not into this. Okay, so it's saying 1,100 miles, and Jean-Luc's position, we'll get rid of that. We'll start off with a base figure of 1,100 miles. That's 8 o'clock UTC on the 2nd. Mark is 4 o'clock on the 1st. So that's 24 plus another 28 hours. Let's say 30 hours. So 30 hours, I'll just do a quick calculation. 30 hours multiplied by 6.5 equals nearly 200 miles. Okay, so I've got 195 miles here. Is 1,100, so that means Mark is now going to be just a little bit over 900 miles from Jean-Luc's position, which means he's taken out about 75 miles, maybe 70 miles in the last day and a half. So Mark is definitely slowly but surely catching Jean-Luc. Now that puts him, okay, so if we got 195 miles, let's just see where Mark is. There's 295. So Mark is now going to be around about here somewhere. He's just coming into the zone of what we would normally call the doldrums. It means he's just crossed over the equator, potentially. I'll look at Mark's latest message to us. It also has a position, so he's probably now the other side of the equator on the north. And the good news for Mark is you'll see the doldrums here are pretty much non-existent. So as he's moving forward, and we'll look at the weather in a sec, he should be able to sail straight through without any delay. Jean-Luc was held up a little bit there, not a lot, but he was held up slowly. He had a slow day or so, but Mark looks like he's going to go through. So let's just see what happens to the doldrums here. It'll be there within 24. Oh, it's starting to lighten off. Okay, so Mark's weather overall is lightening off, and Jean-Luc's is holding the same. Let's go through to the next day, through to the 4th. Yep, still going light. So looks as if Mark is going to have a couple of light days. He'll be in this area here then. Not a lot of breeze there, but still going in the right direction, but not fast. That'll frustrate him a bit. By the time we get to the 5th, it's starting to fill in. By the time we're into the 5th, he's now then definitely progressed into the northeasterly trades. Now, here's where it gets interesting for Jean-Luc, a few things. So that's the 5th. So on this weather, that's 3 days. He's doing 5 knots. So that's about 300 miles or so in front of his position here. So he'll, at that stage, Jean-Luc is driving out of the trades, there's no question. And it's gone light a little bit as well. And this is where it's going to get very tricky now for Jean-Luc to decide where he's going to go. And so we'll assume then at this weather pattern, that's where he's going to be. So we'll go through to the 6th. Very light winds. This is where Mark is going to make some big gains. The 7th, okay, he gets a bit more of a breeze, so he's able to go a little bit higher. Just then, this is where the tactics now come in. If we look at the big picture here, I got a feeling Jean-Luc is going to want to stay on the inside track here, and he's obviously going to want to get over here as quick as he can. And it'll depend on what weather he's delivered in this area. You can see some of the winter storms here, which are influencing what goes on. And here's the Azores. I think you'll see Jean-Luc staying, if he can, he'll stay as far inshore as he can and try and hook onto these following breezes here. At this early part of the year, you get this, more likely than not, this wind direction here coming from the southeast. So, but it's very tricky, and I think we may see a situation where, because Jean-Luc's speeds are compressing and Mark will be in the trades, he starts to catch up again. But eventually, Mark will face the same situation, and by the time Jean-Luc, he might be over here into these southeasterlies, but Mark will then be trapped in these lighter winds, this transition period where you're going through before you meet up with the systems of the North Atlantic. So still plenty going on, still too interesting to call the real finish, remembering that Jean-Luc's got mast issues. Mark Slats hasn't, expanded on his issue with the mast base. I'm going to ask him on the next phone call, which should be in today, what's the deal with the mast base? Have you got a real problem there, or is it just an annoying thing? So we'll see how it goes. We've got three skippers calling in today, Jean-Luc, and I forget the others now, too much in my brain, but keep an eye out on SoundCloud. We'll go from there. Sorry about losing the tracker there for all that time, and we'll see you again shortly. Thanks.